Okay, well, we're live, so welcome everyone who's going to be joining us. I'm really excited for this call today with Victor, who I've contacted because I've joined his cool group. And yeah, I found his post very inspiring and wanted to find out more and share that with everyone else. I think this will create some really cool conversations, and if you have any questions, then you can also comment in the, put your questions into the comment box and ask us anything. And yeah, I'm just really excited. So before we carry on, just wanted to share somebody who might not know me. I'm Maria. I help creative, I help people reconnect with their creative selves. This is my specialism, and to connect with what is true to them through transformational art coaching, combination of art therapy and arts and transformational coaching. So I'll give a pass over to Victor to introduce himself as well. And Victor is a coach and blogger, and yeah, we're both excited to be here, I guess.
Thanks, Maria, for the introduction and for letting me be here with you today and with your audience. So yeah, my name is Victor. I guess if I go on telling a bit about myself, I'm 29 years old. I live currently in Moscow, but I grew up in Finland and lived a bit of my life also in Amsterdam and Holland. And yeah, if we go directly into the context of this call of helping others, then through basically the difficulties that I started to face as a young kid growing up in a foreign country, not knowing the language, obviously having the language barrier, started to face a bunch of different difficulties. Started to go more inside of myself, so to say, be more introverted. And the most dangerous thing about all of this, which is something I think many people who get very closed experience, is the fact that you go inside of yourself and you're okay with that. You think that that's the only option. For example, like if you're a foreigner, you're like, nobody accepts me, so who cares? I'll just accept myself, or find people that maybe do accept. And then this kind of went as a snowball, the snowball effect. It just went stronger and stronger, closed more into myself, went to study in Holland. Very difficult education. Did something I did not want to actually do, but I just felt like I needed to do something different. Went to study art history. It just got overwhelming. Anxiety kicked in like full blown. And then we can go a little bit into that deeper soon, but basically the idea is that I learned to help myself after I got to a point where I felt like it cannot get any worse, or it can, but that's not going to be what I call enjoying life or living a life. It's going to be just super painful because it already was painful. Hardly any purpose in life, always anxiety, running away from people, hiding, running away from personal problems. And then just, basically started to get interested in how do actually people become better. And what helped a lot is going into motivational content. Because if you are in a certain mind state constantly and you can't think outside of the box, which is the problem when you need somebody to help you. And this is where the coaching part comes in. But in my case, it started off with me just getting new opinions, new ideas from somewhere else. And in this case, it was motivational books on self-development, people actually sharing their experience. And then I read their stories, and some of the people had it so badly throughout their life, and they managed to change their life around. I remember reading somewhere where you think you have this direction in life and you're going, and you're not doing anything necessarily wrong. You think that that direction is the only direction, but all it takes is to shift the direction and start going a different way. And to help yourself with that, you need somebody to talk to, you need somebody to guide you. And in my case, it was just self-help books. Started to get better and fixed my diet, started eating healthy. Remember, I used to do binge eating a lot, just never stopped, and then felt extremely bad about it. And I remember I started weighing food on scales every time I would eat, started going to the gym. And then I noticed that I'm feeling a lot better, and stuff that felt anxious before that I used to run away from. I remember having stage fright, like to an extreme. Everybody says they're afraid of public speaking, right? Everybody says stage fright. But my case was so bad. I remember we had to give these presentations in school and university. And in order to hide the fact how red my face would get, I would wear a red t-shirt in front of the class to present. And I also remember listening to hypnosis tapes before presentation, you know, trying to maybe solve the problem somehow. Of course, it didn't help for me. Then I read online that vitamin C helps with anxiety. I remember sitting before a presentation in a red t-shirt drinking orange juice, just like a liter or a liter and a half, and just wanting to go to the toilet. It was just so bad. And, you know, trembling, and just my words would go all over the place. And then I was like, okay, well, screw this. I'll take public speaking classes. I joined Toastmasters to actually present more and more. So that started working well for me. And then as a logical solution to this all, I thought, like, if I can help myself, then I can help other people. Then everybody can help themselves. But some people are just not going in the right direction. They just need that guidance. And so creating a blog around the topic of self-development was the logical conclusion to me helping myself. And of course, the more I started to write about self-development, the more I started learning and also improving myself. And the moment when I received my first email from a person saying, just thank you for what you write and for what you do and you help me, then I realized that I'm on the right path, that I'm not doing it just in vain for nothing. So this is, in a nutshell, my introduction in the context of this.
Yeah, and it's so nice to see you so openly talking about everything, and I can relate with so much of what you said, and about the anxieties and not having purpose and binge eating and even the stage fright thing. So I can see a lot of similarities in that. And if I remember the time that, and you know, it's been a process of getting out of this anxiety, but still sometimes it still sometimes happens where I am in a place instead of, or on a stage, and I get that anxiety still working on certain things, but remembering how it was in the past, it's been a really, really difficult feeling. So, you know, I find it interesting how we're able to transform that and push that, or not push, but harness this energy into creating something positive for others. And I feel almost when it's that bad, we almost get into a place where there's no other way around. I don't know. You know, it's like it's such a bad feeling, and you're feeling so small and so full of anxiety and all of this, that the only way to go is the other direction, because it gets so, you know, so tough in that feeling that I find it.
Yeah.
I can see that similarity. That's what pushed me in the end to go the other direction.
Yeah, and you mentioned the anxiety. It can get really, really bad. I remember when I was studying in Holland, I had like an overwhelming amount of work to do, like schoolwork, and I already was kind of introverted, or really introverted actually. And then I remember sitting in class, and then I suddenly got tunnel vision, and like just dark everywhere around. And I was like, what is this? And just extreme fear, and my heart started pounding. And I thought actually I was dying. Like I had no idea, it's in my mind. I ran out of school, I remember, out of uni, I just started walking to the store. I thought I was gonna die, and I wanted to get some vitamins. I remember, it's just like, you know, what else can you do? Just get some vitamins. And I went to the store to buy fruits, and then it started all over again. And I remember running out of the store and just walking somewhere and thinking like, oh my God, this is so bad. I've hit such a bad place in my life. I actually thought for the first like 2 days that it had something to do with my heart. And then it kind of repeated. And then I realized that it's not actually starting from my heart. It's starting from my mind, and my heart is a response to me being really anxious. And normally people, because we see this advertised a lot, and people say like, if you suffer from anxiety, you need to get, or you can get yourself pills, just downers to help yourself. And many people do. I never got them, but I also really didn't work with this whole anxiety. And then what many people don't understand is that anxiety is not like a thing you have to live for the rest of your life. Most of the time you run away from it just because it's so damn painful. But after reading some books on this stuff and just motivation, I thought to myself, what if I tried to do something with it? And I remember playing these games with myself. Like, I would be really afraid of walking into a crowd of people. It would just like be too much for me. My heart would pound again. I always had to like walk around. And then I made like this first step. What if I just walk through them? And I remember being really anxious and just walking through them. And then I did it. And then I was like, okay, this wasn't that bad. And then next time when you do it, it's easier and easier. And then you take the next step, what doesn't feel so anxious anymore. And actually, when I said that I joined Toastmasters, that was one of the most extreme parts for me. Like, something I really fear to go out there and do it, and to do it better. And so the idea is that, like you said, just the only thing to do is just to turn around and walk a completely different way. And unfortunately, many people don't believe that it's an option. And that's where the mindset is so important. But I also do understand that it's really, really hard to change your mindset when you're experiencing fear and pain on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And that brings me to the question: what do you feel is the reason? For example, for you've gone to look at self-help books and helped yourself in those situations, which probably inspired you to take action that perhaps before you might not even have thought of. I mean, I remember how that was for me a case as well, going to certain lectures where they started to talk about spirituality, self-development, and all of that, which almost felt like I remembered. It was like what I was hearing was like, I remember now. It made complete sense instantly, and there was no doubt for me to then go and do that. It just clicked. But then sometimes people might not even have an initiative or self-help books around, or lectures around that. What do you feel might be that? What's sort of keeping them from taking those steps?
You mean if they don't have any self-help books around, how do you work around it? Or
so for you, you've looked out for things or for solutions, and like you mentioned, some people don't look for that and then just run away. I'm just curious, I guess, what do you feel might be the reasons for that in the people that go and don't go out and look for something that might help them, or not even have that in the awareness perhaps?
Well, first of all, I think it's the fact that they don't know any better. Because, like I said, I myself had no idea that it can actually be fixed from within without actually turning to like pills, for example, or something like that. Also with what I noticed is that time always heals. And that helped a lot with me also. Just the fact that I reminded myself that I can heal within time, and this positive state of mind. But coming back to why people don't turn to, why don't they help themselves? It's a good question. I guess it's a combination of the life we live today. I mean, we would look at movies, and whenever people feel anxious, what do? Drink alcohol and eat pills. And I'm not gonna hide, I drank a lot of alcohol as part of it. But the thing is that it never actually fixes anything. You just, you forget for a little while, you feel maybe better, but then you wake up and everything's worse again, because you don't actually, you don't tackle your problems. And if you're in the same situation, you haven't yet, you haven't found an alternative, then I think there's really no other way than to read those books and to find people to talk to. Well, probably the easiest thing is to talk to your friends and ask their opinion. ask their advice, maybe because many people suffer from anxiety and stuff like that, and some people actually have good points that they can share with you. Many people don't want to talk about their anxiety even to their parents, to their family, because they feel like it's something that's, you know, frowned upon. But the thing is, you must understand that I talk, everybody in the self-development field has probably had anxiety. It's just like something that everybody goes through when they start working with themselves, like really well, really much.
Yeah.
And so don't be afraid of this thing. Everybody experiences it on some level, because we progress these days way faster than our evolution has allowed us to. All these social networks, all of the internet all around, just things are moving too quickly for us, and that's why there are more and more psychological problems going on, you know, in society and in cities. And so you should never feel bad about the fact that you are having some kind of a problem, but you must understand that the sooner you let it out and actually get some help in the form of helping yourself through books, or talking to friends and family, or even going to, you know, a coach, a self-help coach, a psychiatrist, whatever you feel more comfortable with. But the most important thing is to not keep it in, because that keeping it in makes it worse. And I say this from experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I can relate on a personal level, and also in the work and the coaching. And it is true that you know, anxiety is a normal and natural part of, you know, human beings. And most of the time, the way that the world is set up is, like you mentioned, for example, with adverts about pills for anxiety, pills for this pain. And of course, you know, the medical industry, you know, has really transformed, and there's lots of advantage to it nowadays. But then also it really can create this sort of dependency on something to fix you really fast. And like going into alcohol or drugs and all of that is almost like, you know, making you feel good in that moment, but not really getting rid of the problem. And in what you've said, I can relate again. Because back in the days, this is also, you know, I've been really running away from my feeling, from not facing my truth, not voicing what I really felt, not being able to say no, all these things. I was really taking myself, not really living myself and my truth. And I was able to see that in all kinds of ways around me, if it's in the relationships, if it's in the people I had around me, if it's in my studies or whatever I was doing. I was just faced with challenges all the time, because life, you know, I feel life truly does support you. The universe does support you with everything. And sometimes if you're not listening to yourself, life hits you hard and harder and harder in some ways. And it doesn't get better. And I guess that's what we mentioned earlier about, you know, I felt like for me, that was just getting so painful that there was no way out. Other than actually facing, you know, my truth and accepting myself, and being, having the courage to speak, to say what I thought, and to accept myself and act on self-love, be better with health and eating, nutrition, and all of this, become more conscious. And not run away into any sort of addictive patterns, because as people we are addictive.
Yeah, definitely.
Everything is sort of an addiction. Even habits are addiction. If we ways of expressing ourselves or our thoughts, it becomes an addiction, because our system is running on this habitual. You know, it's very clever, because it can, you know, we can have this autopilot way of being.
Yeah.
But then it's about activating our free will. What is it that we're actually doing? Is it serving us? Is it not serving us? What is it creating? And
you mentioned like all parts of life got challenging, and you said basically talked about now activating the ideas like what are we doing right or wrong, or is it serving us? And that's actually really hard, because when we're in a really low negative state, we're in a reactive mode. We don't really think too much. We just try to make our life as easy as possible. And I liked it how Tony Robbins once said it. He said that he has this 90 seconds rule, where he explains that in the, you know, like in the Stone Age times, when our brain was not made to make us happy. It was made there to make us survive. In the past, there was the, you know, saber-toothed tiger thing, whatever it's called, that people had to run away from or hunt or whatever. Now, there's none of that anymore. But now there are problems. Where am I going to find food tomorrow? Where am I going to get the money? How are my kids doing? How am I doing? Where's my girlfriend? Where's my boyfriend? Am I getting married? What are my grandparents thinking? And so you have these, a lot of these things bombarding you from all sides of life. And life has become, for people who are fortunate enough like us, living in cities, we have the luxury to go there and to experience this and be on our mobile phone and have internet. But at the same time, we are subconsciously on a kind of a hidden level, we're experiencing all these negative things that are coming with all of this novelty, with all these new devices and experiences that we're getting. So yeah, in my really, honestly, I think anxiety is so expected in this day and age. It's just like, in my mind, I don't know, if you're not anxious, then you're either you're blessed or you're not doing much outside of your home. You know, I think it's super normal for everyone to experience anxiety. Of course, everybody has it on a different level, but that's where self-education comes in, and you really either that or ask somebody to help you.
Yeah.
Keeping it is, of course, not the way to go. And as we know, some people end their lives like this, just they can't take it anymore, and that's also one of those unfortunate but ends to that anxiety. You mentioned how you had to turn around, and I did too, because I've hit the rock bottom. I felt so bad about it. There's just no way to go. It's kind of like, I just can't accept it. So I was fortunate enough to have those books next to me to understand that you can change yourself. You were too, but some people don't, and they unfortunately take that the end to life, so to say.
And so how long have you been on this journey, let's say, like from the start of starting your blog and sharing that with others and becoming a coach?
I would say my blogs, so I've had it for around now 3.5 years. I'd say like 4 years ago, that was the mark that I was like, okay, like I'm really motivated. I see that you can do things. What am I going to do? I was getting a lot better, but I really still didn't have this purpose, so to say, and that was also really killing me. I remember when I was younger, I would work on these like construction sites and have these physically demanding jobs, and then my parents would tell me like, and I really hated it, like, no offense to construction people, but I mean, it's a tough job. I have hats down to these people. It's a really tough job. And I was like, okay, I'm getting paid very little and I don't like my job. And my parents are like, that's why you need to study and get a university degree and then go to school and get a nice car and a house, you know, the typical stuff. And I was like, yeah, it made sense because I understand how difficult this is. I don't want to do this. And then I went to university, did 3.5 years, a different university, did 3.5 years of software development, came to work on the first day. I was surprised that I was again getting paid very little, but even putting that aside, I was like, I love sitting. This is cool. I get to sit and it's not a physically difficult job. And I'm just sitting, and then like 2 hours into the job, I'm like, I don't actually like this. Like, I don't like going to work. Like, I want to do something of my own. And then, you know, by the end of the day, I was like, okay, I need to do something. It's just sad that I spent 3.5 years studying, you know, something I realized on the first day of work that I don't want to do. And so I started just thinking like, what can I do? What can I do? And then I was like, well, I've helped my friends. I've helped myself. I want to help others too. That just brings so much fulfillment. What can I do? And then I was like, well, I'm a software developer. I can have my own blog. As it turned out, I didn't even need to be a software developer. It's so easy to have a blog these days, a website. And then I was like, I'll start my blog, and I just started writing about, you know, health, diet, spirituality, whatever, business, career choices. And then I just got into it, and I was like, I feel so good. It's like a purpose suddenly. I'm waking up excited, like, who am I going to talk to today? What am I going to experience? What are the opportunities that I'm going to see? I was super tired by the end of the day, but I felt so good about it because I was like, this is the good type of tired where you're like satisfied going to sleep. And that's really when it went like incredibly well for me. I found my purpose. And then, you know, because I managed to help some people through my texts, and then somebody thanked me, another person thanked me, somebody asked my advice, I helped, and I was like, I thought of life coaching before, but I didn't really like think about it. What if I can help people? And then so I started going into it a little bit, reading like, how do you get even into this? Because it's like such an unknown thing. Many people don't even know what life coaching is. They're like, are you a shrink? Like, what do you do? You need a degree for that. I'm like, no, it's not. I'm not medical. Like, this is nothing to do with medicine or psychology. I'm not. I'm never dealing with people who have depression or something like that. It's not about me. It's not like a place to listen to people and just to listen to them. If you just want to figure out what your maybe road is like or should be like, what you need help, you need some accountability. That's kind of what I wanted to do. So I started reading into that, took some courses on life coaching, read a lot of books. But what helped me was the fact that I've been already by then blogging for like a year and a half. So I've gone through so many already self-help topics, and much of the content did come from life coaching tips. And so I went online, started just writing on different websites, Quora, looking for free clients. There were clients who I was willing to take on for free just to see what it is like. And then I managed to get some results for these people. They were really happy about it. And I was like, okay, this is awesome. I right then understood that it's not an easy thing at all. No matter what somebody says, life coaching is not easy. You have a lot of responsibility as a life coach. You need to be aware all the time. You need to be it's good because we went through so many struggles, hard times, that we can empathize with people. That's really important for a life coach, but it's not easy at all. And so I thought like, okay, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to limit the amount of people I work with, because I wanted to also keep working with myself, helping myself grow. And if you're constantly only helping other people, it kind of mixes up in your head. I remember sitting in one of the sessions and thinking, like right before the life coaching, I was like, I had notes of different people, and I was like, did they have that problem or is it my problem? I don't even remember anymore. Just struggling there. And I was like, okay. So yeah, every once in a while I coach, do blogging, and I just absolutely love it. There's no such thing as being happy from buying stuff or from having money. You become happy for a while, then it naturally dissolves. It's not lasting. The only thing that lasts, for me at least, and well, for many other people that I've seen, is fulfillment through helping others. I've helped myself, I'm able to help others. That makes me so happy. And that's necessarily, I didn't gain anything from that, but it's just, I'm so happy on a deeper level. That's cool. That's why I love it.
Yeah, and two things came up for me there. It's like when you mentioned about, how we have to take care of ourselves to be able to take care of others. It's like the cup half full or half empty situation. If we don't have, energy, if we don't take care of ourselves, how can we really, give from our cups? And that's where I feel as well that the personal development path, when it really hit for me, and when it really hit for me that, taking care of myself is really important, because before I was always like, outwards, helping others, but not taking care of and not loving myself at all. And realizing how important that is, really, yeah. I think that really kicks off the real personal development. Yeah, that path, becoming really real and loving yourself so that you can give. And I think the inspiration for me as well was to be able to give, and that fulfillment that you just talked about, I feel as well is the most fulfilling. Because it's like, if you talk about energy and creativity, and what I really love to talk about, but like creativity, we're all creative beings and we have this energy to give. And if we just focus on, wanting things, I mean, there's nothing against wanting things and living in abundance and having prosperity, belongs to this world as well, where we've got the spiritual part and then the material part, or however you want to, intangible and tangible part of us. But if the focus is on that without wanting to share, then it stops with us, and so it stagnates. And I think that's where, when things stop for us, when we stop and the world keeps moving, because the world does keep moving, life does keep changing, and nature is change. If you look at the 4 seasons, and everything is changing all the time. If we stop, then it only creates, either bigger anxieties or bigger, depression or bigger, feelings of that they just grow inside and inhibit us to flow. And I feel that really is an important part, to open ourselves up to share with others, so that the energy doesn't just stop with us and stagnate. And that's where true fulfillment, the light, or however you want to call it, that fulfillment really comes through. And I feel there is also a part of like where the universe takes care of us if we take care of others. And it's nothing to compare with just material stuff. And I feel, that it is an important part. And because I have a history of having a really bad relationship with money, in the sense that, my family actually has been quite wealthy, but I built a really negative connection with it in the past that I had to build over time, and which was very close in relation to my self-worth as well. So first I was like pushing it away. I hated it. We were having a very unconventional life. My mum sort of like moving away from the whole money thing and, everything that's involved with that. So it was like fleeing from it and pushing it away. But that also meant that was unnatural itself, pushing something away that's still part of you. And so I had a really bad relationship, but then needed to really create this relationship with money first, which was also creating a relationship with myself. So it's all really linked, because money is energy at the end of the day too.
Yeah.
But if it's just material, just like the material itself, then we're lost, because it's empty. It's nothing. It's the light that it brings, or the energy it brings, that's there to share. And if we don't share and don't have that desire to want to share with others, then it does create, this is what I've noticed and seen, and one on myself and observing this, then it does create those issues in our lives.
How did you work around the money problem? The money block, because that's a hard one. I grew up with parents who were raised in the Soviet Union, and there's the money is like so confusing in my family, so I had to read a lot of books basically.
Yeah. I think, well, it's been over many years, to be honest, because like I said, so most of my my childhood, I didn't really have any idea about it, no connection, because we never had any problems with money. So at that point it wasn't there, but I also we weren't living like, really rich kids or anything like this, which is something what I learned later, where it was just about, quite superficial. So my mum was not dealing with it that way, but we never missed anything. So later in my, because it created a lot of problems in the family, like separations, family splitting, were all to do with money issues. For me, that's created a lot of hate towards money, towards anything to do with it. And I didn't have any relationship with it. So in my teens, I was like throwing it out, or
nice,
inviting everybody. But, in some way, it might be nice, but on the other side, it was very destructive as well. Then, not having that relationship with it at all. Later on, what I bought with it wasn't really great. I never really invested, positivity with the money into me. It was more going out and partying and drugs and alcohol, and it was really like that. So I also didn't have any self-worth, which no self-love. I actually, as much as I hated money, I also hated myself. So I hated a huge part of me, like history of me and everything connected. And I was scared of it, because for me, money meant, people would leave me, or, because everybody almost like in my life just disappeared and wasn't present. So anyway, it took me,
that's how it happens sometimes. You think it would be a good thing, but then, it turns out completely the opposite.
Yeah, absolutely. And I, when I talk about this to some people, they're like, oh, what? But, this is like a luxury problem to have. I'm like, well, yeah, I get your point. It's not that we were like struggling on that sense, but it created, also creates a lot of other problems. And a lot of destruction, and also I never really truly built the connection with myself to know that I can create my own prosperity. I never felt prosperous from myself. It was, if something is given to you like this, you don't build a how do you say, like you don't build a relationship with it. You don't notice the worth that it is, and therefore you don't also know what you can create. So this is something that I always was looking up to, people that, you know, had perhaps less money but had to work for money, and then created like a really healthy relationship with money in some sort of way. Of course, you know, there's always downsides or other sides to it as well, but that was like what I was like thinking, oh, you know, I was at the stage in my 20s already, that relationship, that now I can be having my own big career and make money, and I wasn't able to do that. So, you know, if you always had it, it creates an issue to be able to know that you can create it yourself. So, you know, you get into your 20s, you come into your late 20s and 30s, and then you're like, wow, I'm not, you know, at this stage I should be, you know, independent, and I'm not.
But it's pretty good what you mentioned, because I mean, history likes, or like that's the most complex thing, when you have something and to let it go and to work around it, to take an alternative route. I mean, even if you read, you know, Buddha's story, he had everything, grew up in a castle, had all the money he needed, and then went completely ascetic, you know, just eating off a hand full of rice and just leaving everything behind. And that's what, I mean, you said you hated yourself in some way for the past, but that's what was that's the good part. It made you basically. Yeah. I also think like, I went through 10 years of just nonsense, just killing my body, my brain, and not doing anything, just having no purpose. I could have, when I got into blogging, it took me like 10 minutes to Google this, there is this kind of opportunity that you can have your own website and you can have a blog. I'm like, I could have done this 10 years ago. Oh my God, I missed 10 years. Oh my God, I studied for 3.5 years just to spend 2 hours at work and think like, oh crap. All of it it's silly to look back and to hate yourself, hate your experiences, because those experiences are what ultimately allow us to grow as humans.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like you're saying. And so loving every single part of you is becoming true to yourself and accepting everything that is, and you'll notice how, you know, everything in your life improves once you have that mindset. So, you know, just to finish that part of the story about how did I create this relationship with money, it took me that accepting myself and all part of me, and becoming true to myself, and also talking about it, because I wouldn't talk about this openly. I would feel really ashamed of myself. I would feel, you know, oh God, I'm nothing, because the problem I have are luxury problems and nobody wants to know this. So I accept myself. And now, you know, talking freely is really freeing. So for me, it's about how can I become more free? How can I accept myself more? And talk, and when I talk about this to people and openly, in the beginning that was so hard, especially like doing lives or you know, talking in front of people or a crowd was really difficult, like shivering and getting ill and all of that. So, you know, my whole body was reacting to it. But that really helped me to accept myself further. And with the money situation, it was still, you know, my boyfriend, we're together 6 years now, and we're almost like two polarities. So I come from the side where everything was fine, and you know, he's experienced the other side of it more than me. So it was like coming from two sides, and I think we now met in the middle. And in the beginning, it took some time. So I then became all of a sudden really anal, like, oh, you know, 20 pounds when we lost this, I was like crying. I was, you know, so going one extreme to the other, that I really built this relationship with money, which then also for some time got me into a little bit of a lack mentality, that I needed to be careful with that again. But I've gone then to one extreme to then now, you know, get myself out of that lack mentality as well. But what was important for me is to take responsibility of everything in my life. So to not be supported by my family anymore, to, you know, to be able to earn money myself, to be able to support myself. That was really important for me to become independent from that. because I had this huge desire to create my own reality, which was more fulfilling to me. So then that sort of spiraled that true relationship with money and self-worth as well, which is, I felt, was intimately connected. But yeah, and it's an ongoing path, you know, like, but it's now about just, you know, it's accepting who I am, who I was, and just, you know, not fearing what other people think, because that's what happened most of my life before. And I think that's the most freeing thing.
It's also important to probably note that accept yourself, but work on bettering yourself. That's also very important, because some people, they accept themselves and just become just a mess.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, I am the way that I am. So I'll start changing myself. So yeah, not in that sense.
Some people do understand it that way, you know. Just
you're right.
The way I was born, this is the way I will be.
Yeah. So it's about that. What really excited me about when I went to those lectures back in the day, it was part about astrology a little bit as well, and they were talking a lot about the nature of people, you know, only because we're born into, for example, a certain star sign or a certain nature or whatever, if you believe in it or not, but it kind of like links to this, like, you know, I'm the way that I am, and that's just, you know, I can't change it. That's what is not really true, because even though we are born a certain way, you know, I think we are here as well to transform our nature. To, you know, it's you know, we are a certain way. Some things are there for us to move through, to develop, to elevate, or I don't know how to call it. Yeah, I think that's a big purpose, to create that change. So if we get stuck in this is the way I am, and that's it, and
either you move forward or you move backwards. There's no standing still.
Yes.
The only way, you mentioned everything changes, and we need to change also. I've also heard somewhere that, you know, when like older people, they don't want to learn anything anymore. Like, I don't care. I don't want to learn about how to use this TV or whatever. That's the moment when life just becomes kind of going downwards, when people stop being interested in developing themselves, even with the most basic things, like learning how to use the internet if you're older.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's things move faster as time goes by as well. I feel like the world is moving faster, but
this is a kind of like bro science, but I'm pretty confident things are moving faster the older you get, and not just because you have more stuff to do. It's something on like it's how we experience time. I don't know, there's just something about it. And that's why, I mean, I remember I lived for like 24 years of my life. I didn't care about anything. I thought I would never die, just be infinitely living. Like, you know, age didn't feel like anything. I didn't care about it. I just felt like having fun all the time. And then when I realized that, okay, I can improve myself, I'm becoming better, life is becoming more enjoyable, I'm like, oh crap, there's so much to do, there's so little time. You know, I started waking up at 4 a.m. to work on my blog. Before I would go to work. I would come from work, continue working on my blog just until evening. And time is running so fast when you have a purpose, when you're actually enjoying. It's like, you know, being in an amusement park. If you're bored, time goes slow. If you're in an amusement park, everything goes fast. If you not having a purpose, if you're just kind of like living through the days, you know, without hobbies, without interests, without a purpose, then it might be slower for you. But when you find a purpose, life is like just flying by, and that's the change needs to happen also quite relatively fast. Never stop, never stand still.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. In some way, it moves really fast, or it moves really slow when you're not engaging with your passions, or with what you truly want to do in this life. But then, you know, when you look back, you're like, wow, you know, I wish I used all of this time for the things that I truly cared about, that are meaningful to me. And then all of a sudden you feel like life is just, you know, moving too fast away. So engaging with that, with those passions, and what is true to you, but it seems like the most rewarding thing. There's something about there's a book about from Victor Frankl, and he have you heard of him?
Yeah, I've read his book 3 times.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, it's a great book.
Yeah, A Man's Search for Meaning.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite books.
And he's basically saying how, that, life is all about, well spent if you've got meaning, and it's not about the lack of pain or the lack of stress. It's about really creating meaning, and him having spent, his life in the Holocaust and all of that, what he's experienced, and losing his wife and kids and all of that, and what got him through was creating meaning with what's happening around him, and everything else would not have been worth life for him anymore.
Yeah,
so I find that so powerful, because I can totally relate on a different side
and
mindset.
the time that he lived through is crazy, and he literally speaks in his book about the fact that the people that die just when dropping dead are those people who finally basically said to themselves that we're not getting out of here. They lost that meaning, the aim, like they're not living for anything. He had that hope that they're going to get out someday, and losing that hope, that purpose, that meaning just killed those people, even though maybe they didn't necessarily need to die right that moment. While at the same time, he was just as starved as everybody else, but he kept going because he had that hope, and that's how he got through. That's just amazing. And I think that tells a lot about this whole mindset and how important it is to have a purpose in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it creates possibilities, and it creates like a purpose for everything that's happening. I guess, like, if I relate this to my life, I think that was like one of the reasons, or the only reason why I changed as well, because I gave actually purpose for the things that were happening in the end, or like meaning to it. And if I before I went to those lectures, like, okay, I went to Kabbalah lectures, that they gave me that purpose, hearing that when I heard the things that you were talking about, like that there is a purpose, that there is meaning, and not just saying there is this, there's that, but it really got me to think, and it really got me to see that everything happening in my life is in order for me to help me become a better person, to notice what's still inside of me that might need some attention or some work, that it's about noticing what's the difference between your ego reactions and proactive like actions that are out of love, what love truly is, in the sense, not that it's just romantic love, but that love is really being there, sharing for others, and how we can be more self-reflective about our actions, that sometimes they might be fear-based instead of love-based. And so it gave me a lot of that, and a lot of understanding about purpose and love and ego. And so at the moment that I realized this, the actions that I did, for example, I was in an abusive relationship back then, so that got me then to know, when situations came up, what is a fear-based decision, and what now is a purposeful, meaningful decision that it helps me to grow out of it and become a better person, but also free myself from a situation that I let myself in there. But before, I had no clue. Before I heard those lectures or that wisdom or whatever, I was just sitting in it, but I also didn't know better, and I had no clue that there was a way out, or whatever that was happening to me, why it was happening. It just was happening. And for me, I had no idea about it. So once I understood more about my agenda, or my responsibility that I was able to activate, and that awareness, I was able to change it, but not before.
Consuming this kind of content is what started to help me, and it's really the self-education is the most important thing. If you're feeling really lazy, down, scared, you don't need to do much to start. Just start, look for a book or two, just that on the topic of related maybe to your fears or something like that. Don't take our word for it. The best kind of books are the books, biographies of people who had to go through, like, for example, the Viktor Frankl's book, The Man's Search for Meaning, how he went through the Holocaust. concentration camps. Take those books. They have so much value in them, so much motivation that that's enough to take some people off the couch and to help them to start taking action.
Yeah.
That's how it started for me, and I would have never ever come to where I am today if I wouldn't have just started to. Actually, it wasn't even books. It was just like YouTube content. I just found like a lecture, or two, and just started watching that, and that's enough to start the engines.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, to be inspired by other stories, I think is the most important, most powerful, not most important, most powerful thing.
It's a common problem. People who are especially very pessimistic, they think that all of this motivation, inspiration thing is just nonsense. They're like, nah, they completely, they do not accept it. They close off from it, and they think that this kind of stuff is for stupid people, basically for like ignorant people or very whatever. I can't even figure out the word now. But it's like, to have success, to be well off in life, you need to always read the very technical stuff. And what happens is that they go much into stuff like politics or books that are written not in a very inspirational manner. But in reality, it is inspiration that all starts it. Don't close. If you feel skeptical about books written by even like people like Tony Robbins, I know many people don't like him because he's just too out there, too much. But you don't need to read that all the time. But it's good to start with something like that. You just need that boost of inspiration. And I know it helps many people, but many people also, they could use that, but they never get to that because they think it's for gullible. That was the word, for gullible people, just for silly people.
Yeah. And yes, it's absolutely, I totally hear what you're saying. So in terms of working with you and like where people can find you, because I'm aware of time, so I feel, I'm really grateful to have had this conversation with you here.
Likewise.
So just for people to know, like, okay, who you work with, or how they can find you. Yeah, do you have any details that you would like to?
The best way to contact me is probably, well, you can choose. But the best way to contact me is through my website. I don't know if you can leave it in the comment maybe or something to this video. It's gedground.com. It's the GED stands for Growth, Evolution, Development. I couldn't pick a good domain name at that moment, but I really wanted something similar. So it's, gedground.com. You can find there my Facebook group where we spend time. I try to help as many people, and we try to help each other. It's, as you saw, it's a group with like motivation, but also silly stuff, just humor. And if you have any problem and you may be too afraid to speak out to your friends, to family, you can go to that group there and just join it and write about your problems there. There will be plenty of people to help you, because it's, as I call it myself, a safe environment, because that's no judgment, no stuff like that. Nobody's going to politicize anything. Just you can talk about your problems there. And so that's the best way to find me. You can also, of course, Facebook me, but Facebook has this thing where sometimes when you write to a new person who you're not friends with, for example, it hides the message as spam. You don't actually see it.
Should say. Okay, great. So I'm going to put this in the comment box as well. And now you know where you can find Victor.
Thanks a lot.
Great, y'all. Thank you so much for today. I really enjoyed this conversation. Perhaps we might continue this conversation sometime as well on another line.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. And yes, I'm putting this into the comment box. And yeah, like if you want to put a like if you like this video, or hashtag replay underneath. And if you have any more questions, then don't hesitate to comment or contact us personally. And yeah. Other than
Thank you, Maria, for this opportunity. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's been very good.
I love the birds singing in the background. You must have. Yeah, it's awesome. I just have rain. I have a lamp in front of me, which kind of gives me a little bit more light because it's really dark today.
Yeah, here actually it's almost like a zoo outside with the birds. They're very active. I love them. Funny, you can hear them. Yeah, so thank you so much, and have a wonderful day, and everyone as well.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Maria.
All right.
Yeah.